Hey folks, welcome back to the series where we build a video call app with durable objects. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a WebSocket backend with pure serverless technology. In the past, this used to be a pain, but with durable objects, it's really easy. I'm going to show you how to create your first durable object. Then I'll show you how to set up a WebSocket server to coordinate multiple connections. And lastly, I'll show you how to keep track of connected clients on the durable object. My name is Confidence and I'm a developer advocate at Cloudflare. Let's get started. I'll need to create some folders for the code project we'll be building together. But before doing that, I'm just going to show you the completed project repository, just in case you need to pick ahead and take a look at what we'll be building later on in the series. So if you visit github.com/megaconfidence, this is my repository, by the way, and don't forget to smash the follow button. But let's head over to the repositories tab, and you should find a repository called Vite. And this repository contains both the code for the front end or client and the back end or server. So we'll be building the client later on, but starting with this video, we'll be working on the server. And this is the source repository for the server. All right, so that's it. Now let's head back to the terminal and let us start building. The first thing I'm going to do is create a folder to contain both the client and the server code. So I'm just going to call this folder V. So let's take V. All right, we're in the folder right now. Then the next thing I'm going to do is create a project for the backend code. So I'm going to be using the create Cloudflare CLI. This is npm create Cloudflare at latest. I'll be calling this Vite backend, but feel free to call this whatever you want. You can call it server, you can call it backend. I'm calling this Vite backend right here. So I'm going to hit enter. All right, the next thing I want to do is select what template to use. I'm going to be using the coordination or multiplayer API template with durable objects. And I do not want TypeScript, although you can say yes if you want all of the autocomplete stuff and the niceties of TypeScript. I do not want to use Git version control inside of that project because we'll be adding the parent folder to source control. And do we want to deploy the application now? No, not yet. So if we do a quick ls, you notice we have a Vite backend project, and that is what we want. So we can cd into the Vite backend project, and I can open this up. All right, this is the index.js file. But if we take a look at the source tree, you notice that we have this folder structure, and right off inside of the source directory, we have the index.js file. And of course, we also have the wrangler.toml file, which we'll be looking at shortly. So taking a look at the index.js file, you notice we have a lot of comments. And what I'm just going to do is to get things ready, and I'll start by deleting all of the comments we have here. All right, I'm done deleting the comments. Now, the next thing I'll do is I want to rename the class of these durable objects from my durable objects to Vite. So let's do that. I'm going to delete this and let's call this Vite. All right. And I also need to also do the renaming in the wrangler.toml. So in the wrangler.toml, find the line where it says durable objects binding. And for the class name, you also want to update this to Vite. And let's also update the binding name to Vite in all caps. All right, so this is going to be Vite. All right, that looks good. And I'm going to come here, and here where it says my durable object, I also need to have that updated. So let's call this Vite in all caps. And I'm also going to do that here. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is work on the fetch handler of the durable objects. So right now, the durable object has a method called say hello, but we actually want a fetch handler that is going to receive a request, create a WebSocket pair, accept one end of the WebSocket pair, and send the other end to the client for the client to accept, and that forms the WebSocket connection. So let's do that. I'm going to call this the fetch function, and we will take a request, although we're not going to use that request, but it's just good habit having the request in the parameter here. And what we want to do is create a WebSocket pair. So let's do that. This is going to be const pair equals to new WebSocket pair. All right, so we create a WebSocket pair. Then we accept one end of the pair. So this is this dot ctx dot accept WebSocket. All right, we accept one end of the WebSocket pair. This should be an array. All right, and then we return the other end to the client. So this is return new response. The body is going to be null, but we are going to have the WebSocket pair added here. So let's say the status is 101 because we're switching from HTTP to WebSocket, and let's add the WebSocket here. And this is going to be pair 0. All right, so that looks good. We are handling the WebSocket connection as we should. The next thing I'm going to do is here in the worker fetch handler, we need to update it such that we are routing the request to the fetch handler of the durable object. So I think I am just going to delete all of that. All right. So the line above here, the ID line, is going to ensure that we have the same ID generated given the same request path, so that we're always routed to the same durable object given the exact same request path. And what I'm going to do is fetch a durable object given that ID. So this is const vit. We're going to save that durable object in a variable called vit, and we're going to call env.vit.get and pass in the ID. And lastly, we'll return the fetch. We're going to pass that request to the fetch handler of the durable object and return the response here. So this is vit.fetch, and then we pass in the requests. All right, so that's about it. And I'm just going to add an underscore here. All right, so that looks good. It seems to have a WebSocket server built here, and I'm going to open up a new terminal to run this. So let's open up a new terminal. And I'm going to type npm start. All right, and that should run a dev server for us to test this WebSocket backend we're building with durable objects. So we have this running on port 8787, which is awesome. And now I am going to switch to the browser, and we are going to use Hopscotch, an API testing tool, to test our WebSocket backend. So this is hopscotch.io. And switch over to the real-time tab, and here's where you enter in your WebSocket address. So it's going to be WS and not HTTPS or HTTP, and then the port we have that WebSocket running. So let's go ahead to click on the connect button, and we have a connection. So we have a WebSocket server running, and we're able to connect to the WebSocket server. Now I'm going to make a few changes to the code to ensure that, one, we're keeping track of all connected clients, and two, we are handling the edge case where a client thinks this is a HTTPS server. We want to inform that client that this is a WebSocket server. So that's the second thing we'll do. But let's start by keeping track of the connected WebSocket clients. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is in the constructor, I am going to create a variable for all of the connected sessions, and this is going to be a JavaScript map. So this is going to be this.sessions equals the new map. All right. And the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to get all of the connected WebSocket clients and add them to this map. So this is going to be this.ctx, and we're going to be calling a method called getWebSockets. Of course, this method is also in the documentation in case you want to take a look at it, so you can have more info there on the docs. So we're going to call the getWebSockets. All right. And we're going to receive a bunch of WebSocket and array. So we're doing a for each here. So for each WebSocket, what I'm going to do is have it added to the sessions variable. So this is going to be this.sessions.set WebSocket. And then for its value, we're going to grab a snapshot of that connection from memory by calling the deserialized method on the WebSocket itself. So this is going to be an object. We're going to spread ws.deserialize attachment. All right. And that is going to grab the snapshot from memory and put it into this sessions map that we have created. All right. So I think that looks good. I am going to save this. I'm also going to make a change here such that when we create a new WebSocket pair, we have our end of the WebSocket pair added to the sessions map. So this is going to be this.sessions.set. All right. And we are going to put in pair index 1, and then we are going to set its value to an empty object. So that's what we need to do to keep track of all of the sessions. And this is going to ensure that when a new client connects, we know about our client and we can keep track of the connection using the sessions map. Okay, so we still have a server running. Now let's go back and see if everything works as expected. And let's head back to the browser. I am going to click on connect because this was already disconnected. So let's click on connect. And we have a connection and we have no errors. So that is awesome. Now, the last thing we're going to do here is ensure that if a client connects to this WebSocket server, thinking it's a HTTPS server, we want to let that client know that it's a WebSocket server and encourage them to upgrade to WebSocket. So how we do that is what we're going to be looking at over here. And right here in the fetch handler, we will need to do that check before calling the durable object. So I'm going to have a variable called upgrade, and this is going to look at the upgrade header of the incoming request. So this is const upgrade request.headers.get. So it's going to look at the upgrade header. If there is no upgrade header, or the upgrade header is not equal to WebSocket, what we want to do here is we want to tell the client to upgrade to WebSocket. So we're going to return new response, and we're going to say something like expected upgrade to WebSocket. And we can add a status of 426, and that's awesome. All right, so that's going to catch the edge case and help the client upgrade to WebSocket if they haven't done so already. So we have the server restarted, and we can head back to the browser. And this is disconnected, so we have to reconnect. And we have that connection. Everything is working as expected, and this is perfect. Awesome. This feels like a good place to stop this video. In the next tutorial, I'll show you how to handle messages and disconnections to the WebSocket server. Also, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss the next video, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Take care. Bye-bye.